Welcome to the Coach's Call. Thanks for tuning into the episodes. And if you have a minute, just click on the little subscribe button there so you can get notified when a new episode comes out. Really appreciate that. It's free. And sometimes I say some cool things here on the show. Sometimes I'm even right. Look, the last episode I talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay had drowned the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I was getting inundated with messages that the Leafs were going to get swept. And on that show, I said they're probably not going to get swept. The Leafs aren't that bad. Tampa wasn't that good when you balance things out. And lo and behold, Game 2 is in the books, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they did it in a way that looked like they were a dominant team. Now, it didn't start out that way. You know, in the first minute, there was a questionable call in that first 40 seconds that went Toronto's way, set them up. They got the first goal and kind of away they went. And the reason I'm not saying, and I don't want to get on the refs because you know how, if you're watching me before, you know how I feel about refereeing in the NHL. I usually say it's abysmal on the best nights. But look, I'm going to park that for a second. The Toronto Maple Leafs went up 1-0 on their first shot. The Tampa Bay Lightning over the next 10 minutes put about 8 or 9 shots back on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And when they did that, you know, the shot clock was 8-1. The Leafs were winning 1-0. And I'm watching the show on Sportsnet, and I hadn't seen this for a long time, but Sportsnet changes the shot clock to a hit clock. And the hit clock was about 6 hits for Tampa Bay and 5 hits for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they leave it there for minutes. And they don't change it until Toronto actually catches up on shots. So I just found that interesting. I've been harping a little bit on Chris Cuthbert and how the presentation of the game is coming out. I just found it comical. But look, you park that and I say, for a while the Leafs were winning on just one shot, and Tampa Bay was coming at them. And I thought in that first 10 minutes, the Leafs were a little bit lucky to be where they were, and that it was only 1-0. Now, here's the reason that the Toronto Maple Leafs won that game. This is why they won Game 2. They won Game 2 for 4 reasons, I think. And I said this early on at the end of first intermission. I said it, I tweeted it out loud, and I said, look, here's the 4 reasons. And once you know these 4 reasons, you don't need to watch Sportsnet intermission, because I'm going to tell you what it is. And I'm not sensationalizing it, okay? Reason number 1, they put bodies in front of Vasilevsky, all right? They didn't do that in Game 1. Reason number 2, they had active sticks. And by active sticks, they had active sticks in the defensive zone, and they had active sticks in the offensive zone. They were stopping passes, and they were getting some good sticks in the way in the offensive zone for turnovers. Okay. Number 3, face-off wins. They had some critical face-offs wins that resulted in some goals, and they were on the power play. I think 2 of them were, but they did much better in the face-off wins. Okay. Number 4, I said lucky bounces, and they did. There was a couple of bounces where, you know, the puck hops. If the puck doesn't hop over the Tampa Bay stick, it's a different play for Tampa Bay. If the puck hops over and makes it to Toronto, and they get the goal, right? And there was a couple of those plays. There is a 5th thing at the end of the day, and that's this, okay? Cernak was much more valuable to the Tampa Bay Lightning than Bunting was to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm not saying the game just mattered on that one guy, because Tampa also had Yasamot out, and they had Hedman out as well, and those were 3 key players to their lineup. And you know, you inject some players with different skill sets, and it does make a little bit of a difference in terms of adjustment. But the Toronto Maple Leafs also made some other adjustments in terms of how they kind of boxed out the Tampa Bay Lightning a little bit. You saw Tampa didn't quite get into those dirty areas in front of Samsonov. And so they got some results there that they weren't getting in Game 1. So there you go. Leafs Nation is going to go nuts tomorrow. Highs and lows. We keep hearing, the coaches and the announcers talk about highs and lows. And the Leaf fans, you're going to be on a high. that, and you're going to see comments from people like, oh, well, the Stanley Cup parade is back on. And I despise that comment. I think it's just immature and childish. So I don't want to say it that way, but we know that Leafs Nation is going to be on a complete high, coming off of a complete low. And I don't know if that's good for Leafs Nation for going into game 3. Enjoy the victory. It's a long series, potentially here. I think that game 3 might be a little bit different when they get to Tampa Bay. You're probably going to see Victor Hedman back in the lineup, I suspect. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Cernak. But I gave you now why the Toronto Maple Leafs won that game. You can listen to all those, the conjectures and all the other things that they're going to tell you about the Toronto Maple Leafs and how great their players were and how skilled they were and how this and how that. And it was a system. They played the system. They played it well. They were a better team than the Tampa Bay Lightning overall in that game. And, they had some fortuitous things happen for them as well. But they actually showed up for the game. That's the coach's call. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and take care, folks.